Hello, my name is Ben Graham. What I would like to talk to you today about is conflict and crisis inside the body of believers. Now, it's very unfortunate to hear about conflict inside a body of believers, and sadly, I've been a part of a couple of churches that I've seen conflict and crisis in. One was based around some immoralities inside the church. The one that I'm a part of now, the saddest part of it is it's mostly revolving around selfishness. Selfishness so much so that nobody wants to give up their desire, their will. Nobody wants to bend at all or compromise or see anything besides what they want. And what a telltale sign is that they've taken their eyes off Christ. Because most of the time it's not something, and even our book says that, our leadership handbook of management and administration by James D. Berkeley as the editor, even he says that so many times it's not a theological debate, it's merely just a change that people don't like. You know, in that book it says churches are a lot like horses, said the old farmer. They don't like to be startled or surprised. That's very much it. And a part of the body of believers that I'm currently in, a conflict that arose was updating the auditorium. One side said that I can only worship out of a pew. The other side said that I cannot worship in a pew. And the saddest part of it is that I'm not making that up. That those were really statements that people said. When did it come to be about what I want? What does it matter what I want? What will benefit the body best? You know, we see change is an issue. But one thing that we can combat that with, just a very simple task, is that we know there's going to be people that have issues with change. So one thing we can do, according to the book, is just test the waters. Is just go to those individuals and speak to them and say, hey, this is what I believe God is telling me that I need to do. This is what I believe that God is telling me that our church needs to do. What do you think? Would you pray about this for me? I have prayed about it, but would you pray about it? If you would pray about it, then you'd be doing me such a big favor. Make them feel that respect that you have for them, because more than likely, they've probably been in the church for a long time. Because there's two sides, and again we go back to a book, but there's two sides. There's one that's been in the church for a very long time. There's one that's just coming into it. One saying that this is the way we've always done it, and it's been very effective. Then the other one said, yeah, it was effective, but if you did this, it would be so much more effective. So there's two groups, and the way we can combat the issues between each one of them is to show both sides a mutual respect, to show that mediation between both of them, saying, hey, there's merit in what you say, there's merit in what you say, but what is going to be best for the furtherance of the kingdom? Because that should be our goal, to make disciples. We can only make disciples whenever we know believers, whenever we call believers. Now, we obviously don't do the calling. The Spirit calls them. But He uses us as tools, that we may be used to the furtherance of the kingdom of God. That should be the goal. And it's adjusting people's focus to that. That, I believe, is the key whenever we talk about change. Because at the end of the day, if it will call one to salvation, just by bringing them in, that they may not have come otherwise, is it not worth it? Another thing we see is expectations. I see this all the time inside churches, that the expectations of the new pastor are so high that nobody can do it. Not even the old pastor most of the time lived up to the expectations of the new pastor. And the way we counteract that is say, hey, this is my calling. I told you, this is my calling. This is what I'm called to do. I'm transparent. That's what the book calls us to be, is be transparent. Let people see what you're doing, what you feel like you're called to do, the goals you're setting, to be very open and honest and let no room for the devil to slide in. Surround yourself with disciples, with elders, with a body of believers that can be your foundation, that hold one another together. Because people never want to go against a fortress, but they will go against a soldier off by himself. So be unified. Bring together the body of believers. Because we never should forget what the book says: the church's purpose is worship or evangelism or making disciples or some combination. That is key. Remember why we're there, because where 2 or 3 are gathered, so he will be also. That's why we're there. Adjust the focus to Christ. Don't try to make it about the pastor. Don't try to make it about the elders. Don't try to make it about the ministry, but make it about Christ. If we keep our focus on Christ and we keep everybody looking to Christ, these little things will not matter in the least. They will not matter. It doesn't matter. The little things don't matter. But the only way the little things don't matter is we take every conflict and we look at it as being serious. Not looking at any of them as just minute, doesn't matter. No. Respect the individual. Go to the individual and address the conflict. Address it immediately and appropriately. If we do not address the issue, this is out of the book, we do not address the issue, will a theological precedent be established that could lead to a long-term weakening of our commitment? We need to ask that. I believe we need to ask that with all problems. Is what will happen, what could potentially happen if we do not let this, or if we do let this go. We need to go to it. We need to prayerfully go to it with a body of believers, with the elders, and address the problems. We need to stomp them out while they're embers, so that they cannot become flames that burn the church, that cause damage in the church. But we keep our eyes always on Christ and Him crucified.